Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, today I want to talk about the timeless wisdom of a man whose words have echoed through the corridors of history. Pythagoras, a thinker, a philosopher, a seeker of truth, who taught not only about numbers and geometry, but about life, discipline, and the unseen harmony of the universe. Do not say a little in many words, but a great deal in few. These words remind us that wisdom is not in endless talk, but in the power of meaning. In a world where noise often drowns truth, Pythagoras whispers to us that clarity is the greatest strength. Rest satisfied with doing well, and leave others to talk of you as they please. Too many spend their lives chasing approval, forgetting that true worth is measured not in applause, but in the quiet confidence of doing what's right. Do not chase happiness. Cultivate it within. We learn too late that happiness is not a prize at the end of a race, but a state we can create every single day by how we live, think, and treat others. Above all things, respect yourself. Self-respect is the foundation upon which every great life is built. Without it, success is hollow, love is shallow, and dreams are fragile. Today, I want to take you through some of these powerful truths many men realize only when the sands in the hourglass have nearly run out. Let's not wait until the twilight of life to embrace them. Let's learn them now, live them now, and let them shape who we are and who we are becoming. The power of few words with great meaning is a lesson that has echoed through centuries, reminding us that the weight of wisdom does not rest on the quantity of what is spoken, but on the quality of what is conveyed. Pythagoras understood that language, when wielded with precision, has the ability to move hearts, ignite minds, and shape destinies. In a world saturated with endless noise, where everyone has something to say and platforms are overflowing with opinions, the value of concise yet powerful speech is often overlooked. Yet it is in the ability to distill deep truths into a few chosen words that one truly masters the art of communication. Words are like arrows. When aimed with clarity, they strike directly at the soul. Too often, we hide the essence of what we mean behind unnecessary elaboration, dressing simple truths in layers of complication. But the most impactful ideas in history have often been expressed in their simplest form. Phrases like, know the self, time is gold, or less is more, have endured for centuries because their meaning is timeless, their message clear, and their brevity unforgettable. In our personal lives, the same principle applies. Think of the moments when someone's few sincere words have left a lasting mark on you. A heartfelt, I believe in you, can inspire greater change than an hour-long lecture on self-confidence. A simple, I'm proud of you, can heal wounds more deeply than 100 sentences of justification. Pythagoras' wisdom here reminds us that it is not how much we speak, but how deeply our words connect with the listener that determines their true impact. We have been conditioned to think that to be convincing, we must speak more, explain more, justify more, but in reality, truth requires no excess. Truth, when spoken clearly, carries its own weight and needs no embellishment. This lesson is not only for personal interactions, but for leadership, teaching, and influence. The greatest leaders in history were not those who spoke endlessly, but those who spoke meaningfully. Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I have a dream" resounds not because it was filled with unnecessary complexity, but because it was anchored in a clear, vivid, and concise vision. Winston Churchill's wartime addresses were brief yet unshakable, mobilizing entire nations with a few well-placed words. Even in business, a brand that can communicate its value in a short, powerful statement will outlast one that needs paragraphs to explain its purpose. The skill of saying a great deal in few words requires discipline. It demands that we first understand deeply what we want to say, then refine it until nothing unnecessary remains. This is not easy. Cutting away extra words often feels like stripping away our safety net. Many people use long explanations as a shield, afraid that their core message is not strong enough to stand alone. But here is the truth. When the message is strong, it does not need a fortress of words. It can stand like a pillar, tall and unshaken. There is also an element of respect embedded in this wisdom. When we speak concisely, we respect the listener's time and attention. In an age where the average attention span is shrinking, brevity is not just a skill, it is a necessity. People today are bombarded with information every second. And if we cannot communicate our ideas quickly and clearly, they will be lost in the noise. Brevity forces us to prioritize what matters most, and in doing so, we communicate with greater purpose and impact. Moreover, the discipline of speaking less, but with more meaning shapes our own thinking. It forces us to slow down, to reflect on the essence of what we believe, and to cut away the parts that do not serve the truth. This process sharpens our minds and deepens our understanding. It is impossible to say a great deal in few words without first having clarity within ourselves. That is why Pythagoras' advice is not just about communication. It is about the inner work required to communicate well. When our mind is cluttered, our speech will be cluttered. When our mind is clear, our words will be clear. This principle applies equally to writing. In an age of instant messages, emails, and endless digital conversations, being able to capture deep meaning in short form is a superpower. A single sentence in a book can shift the reader's perspective more than an entire chapter of filler. Many of the most quoted lines in history come from works that understood the power of this simplicity. The words survive because they are portable, repeatable, and memorable. Silence also plays a role here. Knowing when not to speak is part of mastering the art of meaningful communication. There are times when restraint carries more power than speech. In moments of tension, silence can show strength. In moments of grief, It can offer comfort beyond any words. In moments of reflection, it can make the few words that follow far more impactful. Pythagoras' principle does not encourage us to speak less merely for the sake of speaking less. It calls us to speak with intention to ensure that every word carries value. When we understand this, our conversations become more honest, our influence grows stronger, and our legacy is built on words that endure. Every time we choose clarity over clutter, we honor both our own thoughts and the minds of those who listen. We begin to see that the essence of wisdom is not in how much we say, but in how much meaning we can give in the smallest space possible. True self-worth comes from action, not approval, is a truth that challenges the very foundation of how most people live their lives. From childhood, we are conditioned to seek the nod of others, parents, teachers, peers, society. And this pattern often follows us well into adulthood. We measure our value by how many people praise us, agree with us, or recognize us publicly. Pythagoras, in his timeless wisdom, cuts through this illusion, reminding us that the quiet satisfaction of doing what is right outweighs the fleeting rush of applause. Approval is a shifting tide, easily given and just as easily taken away, but the integrity of our actions is an anchor that holds steady regardless of public opinion. The danger of seeking worth through the eyes of others is that we hand them the power to decide how we feel about ourselves. One day, the crowd cheers, the next they turn their backs. If our sense of worth is built on their reaction, we will rise and fall with every change in the wind. A man who bases his value on approval is like a ship without a compass, drifting wherever the current of opinion takes him. But when self-worth is rooted in the knowledge that we are living according to our principles, we stand unshaken even when others fail to see our worth. History is filled with individuals who did the right thing despite criticism, ridicule, or rejection. Galileo spoke the truth about the movement of the planets and faced condemnation for it. Socrates challenged the complacency of Athens and paid with his life. Their worth was not measured by how many agreed with them at the time. It was measured by the courage to act in alignment with truth, regardless of the cost. The approval of the masses often lags behind reality, but the satisfaction of acting with integrity is immediate. In everyday life, this principle is just as important. Think about the work we do, the relationships we maintain, and the decisions we make. Too often, people choose the path that will look best in the eyes of others rather than the one that aligns with their values. Social media amplifies this problem, turning even the smallest acts into performances for approval. A person may help someone in need, but if the act is motivated by how many likes or comments it will receive, then the worth of the action is shallow. True fulfillment comes from knowing you did good, even if no one saw it, no one praised it, and no one ever will. This way of living demands a strong inner compass. It requires the ability to step back and ask, am I doing this because it is right or because I want to be seen doing it? When the answer is the former, we free ourselves from the exhausting need to please others. This does not mean we ignore feedback or the value of community. It means we refuse to let approval be the measure of our worth. One of the greatest benefits of living this way is peace of mind. When you know your worth comes from action, you no longer feel the pressure to constantly prove yourself. You become less reactive to criticism because you understand that disagreement does not diminish your value. You also become less addicted to praise because you see it as pleasant but not essential. Approval may come and go, but your self-respect remains constant. Living for approval can lead to compromise, but living for action leads to integrity. Many people, fearing disapproval, have silenced their voices, stayed in jobs they hated, or followed paths that were never truly theirs. In doing so, they may have won the applause of the moment, but lost the satisfaction of authenticity. When you act from conviction, you may face resistance, but you also build a life you can be proud of. A life where your worth is not rented from others, but owned by you entirely. It is important to remember that action-based worth is not about perfection. You will make mistakes, but those mistakes will be yours, born from your choices and not from bending to someone else's will. Each choice you make in alignment with your values reinforces your self-respect, and over time, that self-respect becomes an unshakable foundation. This principle also strengthens resilience. People who depend on approval crumble when it is withdrawn, but those who depend on action endure. When the world doubts them, they can still stand tall because their worth is self-sustained. Even in failure, they can take pride in knowing they acted with integrity. Pythagoras' reminder to rest satisfied with doing well is not just advice, it is a call to independence. It tells us to step away from the exhausting cycle of chasing applause and to find joy in the work itself. It asks us to measure success not by claps and cheers, but by the quiet certainty that we have acted in truth. This is a deeper, more lasting form of satisfaction, one that cannot be taken away by the silence or disapproval of others. When a man understands this, he stops performing for the crowd and starts living for his own conscience. He stops asking, will they approve? And starts asking, will I be proud of this when I am alone with my thoughts? This shift changes everything because it replaces the unstable currency of approval with the solid wealth of self-respect. Happiness is cultivated within, not chased externally, is a truth that escapes many people until they have spent years running after it in the wrong places. From a young age, we are told, often indirectly, that happiness is something to be found in possessions, achievements, relationships, or status. We grow up believing that once we reach a certain milestone, buy a certain thing, or gain the approval of a certain group, we will finally feel complete. Yet time and experience reveal a sobering reality. The satisfaction from these pursuits is temporary, and once it fades, the search begins again. Pythagoras' wisdom cuts through this endless cycle by reminding us that happiness is not something to hunt down. It is something to grow inside ourselves, like a garden that flourishes through daily care. When happiness is treated as a prize to be won, it remains forever out of reach, because there will always be another goal, another possession, another person whose approval we think we need. This creates a life of constant striving without ever arriving. People change jobs, move cities, buy bigger houses, and chase new relationships, yet find themselves feeling the same emptiness after the initial excitement fades. That is because external conditions can influence our mood, but cannot create the deep, lasting joy that true happiness requires. Lasting happiness is rooted in perspective, gratitude, and inner peace, things that cannot be purchased or handed to us by someone else. Cultivating happiness within begins with understanding that our mind is the soil in which it grows. Just as a gardener removes weeds to protect what is planted, we must remove toxic thoughts, grudges, and self-criticism to allow joy to take root. Many people cannot feel content because they are too busy replaying past regrets or fearing the future. When the mind is cluttered with negativity, happiness struggles to survive. This is why inner work, reflection, mindfulness, and gratitude is essential to living a truly fulfilling life. One of the most powerful aspects of internal happiness is its resilience. When it comes from within, it is less affected by circumstances. You can lose a job, face criticism, or experience setbacks, but because your sense of joy is not tied to these external conditions, you can still find peace and meaning in the midst of difficulty. On the other hand, when happiness depends entirely on external factors, it is fragile, easily shattered when those factors change, as they inevitably will. This inner cultivation also shifts how we approach success. When happiness is internal, we pursue goals not because we believe they will finally make us whole, but because we are already whole and want to grow further. This takes away the desperation of achievement and replaces it with a healthier form of ambition, one driven by passion rather than by the need to fill an internal void. We begin to work from a place of abundance rather than scarcity, and this makes the journey itself more rewarding. Gratitude is one of the most reliable tools for building this inner happiness. By regularly focusing on what we already have instead of what we lack, we shift our mindset from dissatisfaction to contentment. Small daily moments, a warm meal, a kind word, a peaceful morning, become sources of joy. Gratitude transforms our perspective so that we stop postponing happiness for a future event and start experiencing it in the present. Another important element is self-acceptance. Many people cannot be happy because they are constantly comparing themselves to others. measuring their worth against standards set by society or by unrealistic ideals. Pythagoras' lesson reminds us that no amount of external validation can replace the contentment that comes from embracing who we are right now. This does not mean we stop growing or striving. It means we recognize our worth at every stage of the journey. Relationships also change when happiness is cultivated within. Instead of expecting others to complete us, we approach relationships as opportunities to share the joy we already have. This creates healthier, more balanced connections because we are not placing the impossible burden of our happiness on someone else's shoulders. We can appreciate and love people without being dependent on them for our emotional stability. This way of living requires practice because the world constantly pushes us toward external pursuits. Advertisements tell us we need to buy more to be happy. Social media suggests that other people's lives are better than ours. Cultural norms tell us to keep chasing the next milestone. Breaking free from this cycle means consciously choosing to turn inward, to measure our life not by what we acquire, but by how we feel within ourselves. The most liberating part of this truth is realizing that happiness is available right now without needing anything to change in the outside world. It can begin in small, intentional acts, taking a quiet walk, practicing gratitude, helping someone without expecting anything in return, or simply being present in a moment without rushing past it. Over time, these small acts form a habit of inner joy, making it a constant companion rather than a fleeting guest. When we understand that happiness is grown, not found, we stop running in circles trying to catch it. We become gardeners of our own soul, planting seeds of gratitude, watering them with self-care, and protecting them from the weeds of comparisons and fear. We no longer live in anticipation of some future day when life will be perfect. Instead, we find beauty and joy in the imperfect but meaningful moments we already have. Self-respect as the foundation of all success is a truth that holds greater weight than most people realize. Many chase after wealth, status, and recognition, thinking these will secure their happiness and legacy. But without self-respect, these achievements feel hollow. Self-respect is the internal recognition of one's own worth and dignity. It is the quiet assurance that you are living in alignment with your values and principles. Without it, even the highest accomplishments lose their meaning because deep down, you know you have compromised something essential within yourself. Pythagoras' wisdom, above all things, respect yourself, is not a call to arrogance, but to integrity. It is a reminder that the way you treat yourself sets the standard for how the world will treat you. Self-respect begins with boundaries. A person who respects themselves will not tolerate situations, relationships, or behaviors that diminish their dignity. They will not sell their values for temporary comfort or approval. When you hold yourself to a standard, you create a foundation upon which every other success can be built. Without this, achievements may look impressive from the outside, but feel unstable within, like a house standing on sand. True success, success that endures, must rest on the solid ground of self-respect. This kind of respect is not about being perfect. It is about being honest with yourself and consistent in your principles. People lose self-respect not because they make mistakes, but because they repeatedly choose actions that go against their own better judgment. Every time you ignore your inner voice, you weaken that foundation. Conversely, every time you make a decision that aligns with your values, even when it is hard, you strengthen it. Over time, this creates a sense of inner confidence that cannot be bought or faked. The connection between self-respect and success is deep. When you respect yourself, you naturally pursue goals that reflect your worth. You do not settle for less than you are capable of achieving, and you do not allow fear or doubt to dictate your path. This self-belief drives persistence, resilience, and high standards in everything you do. People who lack self-respect often sabotage their own progress by accepting mediocrity or by allowing others to dictate their worth. Those who have it carry themselves with a quiet confidence that draws opportunities and respect from others. Self-respect also shapes how we interact with the world. When you hold yourself in high regard, you are less likely to engage in petty conflicts or seek validation through comparison. You focus on your own growth rather than tearing others down. This maturity and focus set you apart, both in personal relationships and in professional life. People are drawn to those who carry themselves with dignity because it signals reliability, stability, and strength. One of the most challenging aspects of self-respect is that it often requires making unpopular choices. It may mean walking away from a lucrative opportunity because it demands you compromise your ethics. It may mean standing up for yourself when silence would be easier. It may mean saying no when everyone expects you to say yes. These decisions can be difficult in the moment, but over time, they build a life you can look back on without regret. Self-respect is also tied to self-care. Treating yourself well, physically, mentally, and emotionally, is not indulgence. It is an act of honoring your worth. Neglecting your health, overworking yourself to please others, or staying in toxic environments all erode self-respect. By taking care of your well-being, you reinforce the belief that you are worth protecting and preserving. This belief then becomes a powerful motivator to keep building a life that reflects your value. Another key aspect is accountability. People with self-respect take responsibility for their actions. They do not make excuses or shift blame. They acknowledge mistakes, learn from them, and move forward stronger. This honesty with oneself is a cornerstone of both character and success. It builds trust with others and deepens the sense of self-worth because you know you are living truthfully. The absence of self respect often leads to cycles of self-sabotage. When someone does not believe they deserve better, they make choices that reinforce that belief. They stay in unhealthy relationships, accept less than fair treatment, or fail to pursue their true potential. This creates a downward spiral where the lack of respect for oneself feeds poor decisions, and poor decisions further erode self-respect. Breaking free from this cycle requires conscious, consistent action to honor your own value in every choice you make. In the pursuit of success, it is tempting to focus on external markers, titles, awards, income, recognition. But these are fragile without the internal anchor of self-respect. A person can be rich yet feel poor inside if they have achieved their status through compromise or dishonesty. Conversely, someone can have modest means but carry a deep sense of fulfillment because they have lived true to themselves. Self-respect is what allows you to enjoy your successes fully because you know they were earned with integrity. When you truly respect yourself, you stop looking for constant validation from others. You no longer measure your worth by comparisons or external approval. Instead, you measure it by your own standards, by the alignment between your actions and your principles. This internal stability makes you less susceptible to manipulation, less dependent on praise, and more confident in pursuing your goals. It also inspires others because people naturally admire those who live with conviction and dignity. Discipline as the path to freedom is a concept that at first seems contradictory. Many view discipline as restriction, as something that limits choices and imposes rigid rules. But in truth, discipline is the very force that creates lasting freedom. Without it, life becomes a series of impulses, distractions, and unfulfilled intentions. Pythagoras' wisdom, "No man is free who cannot command himself," reminds us that the inability to control our actions, thoughts, and habits chains us more tightly than any external rule ever could. True freedom is not the absence of responsibility. It is the ability to live according to your highest values without being enslaved by momentary desires or weaknesses. Discipline is the foundation on which every meaningful achievement is built. In the absence of it, talent is wasted, potential is never realized, and dreams remain dreams. The athlete who wakes before dawn to train, the writer who sits down daily to write even without inspiration, the student who studies when they would rather be distracted. These are examples of people who trade short-term comfort for long-term freedom. Freedom in this sense is not about doing whatever you want in the moment, but about having the ability to create the life you truly want over time. Many fail to understand that without discipline, so-called freedom quickly turns into bondage. A person without financial discipline becomes a slave to debt. A person without health discipline becomes captive to illness or fatigue. A person without time discipline becomes overwhelmed by chaos and unfinished work. In contrast, someone who has learned to command themselves in these areas gains the freedom to live with energy, security, and peace of mind. Discipline also strengthens character in ways that go beyond the results it produces. It builds patience, resilience, and the ability to endure discomfort in pursuit of something greater. In a world addicted to instant gratification, discipline teaches the rare but essential skill of delayed gratification. The understanding that what matters most is often achieved over time through consistent effort. This quality separates those who make lasting progress from those who only start strong but fade when the initial excitement wears off. The beauty of discipline is that it compounds. Small, consistent actions build upon one another until they create massive results. 10 minutes of focused effort every day can transform into mastery over years. A modest but regular saving habit can turn into financial independence. A daily commitment to health can extend life and improve its quality. Each disciplined choice reinforces the habit, and the habit in turn makes discipline feel more natural. Over time, what once felt like sacrifice becomes second nature, and the rewards multiply. Self-discipline is also deeply connected to self-respect. When you keep promises to yourself, you prove to yourself that you are trustworthy. Every time you say you will do something and follow through, you strengthen your identity as someone who can be relied upon, not just by others, but by yourself. Conversely, every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken that trust, making it harder to believe in your own word. This internal trust is essential because it allows you to set bigger goals with confidence that you will have the discipline to reach them. One of the most misunderstood aspects of discipline is that it does not eliminate joy. It enhances it. When you live with discipline, you create the conditions for deeper enjoyment because you are not weighed down by guilt, regret, or missed opportunities. A disciplined person can enjoy rest fully because they have earned it. They can indulge occasionally without fear because they have established balance. They can take risks with courage because they have prepared themselves through consistent effort. Discipline is not about being harsh with yourself or eliminating all spontaneity. It is about making conscious choices that align with your values, even when those choices are difficult in the moment. This often means saying no to what is easy so you can say yes to what is meaningful. It means doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it, because you value the outcome more than the fleeting comfort of avoidance. The freedom that comes from discipline extends into every area of life. Financial discipline means you are not trapped by bills or dependent on others. Physical discipline means you can move, work, and live with energy. Mental discipline means you can focus in a distracted world and think clearly under pressure. Emotional discipline means you can respond wisely instead of reacting impulsively. In each case, discipline removes the chains that a lack of self-control would impose. In the larger picture, Discipline is an act of self-ownership. It is the decision to take responsibility for your life rather than leaving it to chance, circumstance, or the will of others. It is the recognition that while you cannot control everything that happens, you can control your response, your effort, and your consistency. This control is the essence of freedom, because it ensures that your life is shaped by your choices, not by your impulses or the demands of the moment. Those who live without discipline may feel free in the short term, but over time, they find themselves trapped by unfulfilled potential, by the consequences of neglect, or by dependence on others. Those who live with discipline, on the other hand, may feel the weight of effort in the beginning, but over time, they move through life with a lightness and confidence that only comes from knowing they are the masters of their own actions. Discipline, then, is not the enemy of freedom, but its most loyal guardian. The harmony of life through balance is a truth that often reveals itself only after years of living out of alignment. Many people chase success in one area of life while neglecting others, believing they can make up for the imbalance later. But the cost of this neglect often comes in the form of broken health, strained relationships, or a restless mind. Pythagoras' wisdom, "Let your life be ordered as music is ordered," is a reminder that just as music is built on rhythm, timing, and the balance of different notes, a fulfilling life is created by giving each part of it the attention and care it deserves. Harmony is not about making everything equal. It is about ensuring that the different elements of life work together in a way that supports peace, purpose, and joy. Balance is not something that happens by accident. It requires awareness, intentional choices, and the willingness to step back and adjust when one area begins to consume too much energy. Work, relationships, health, personal growth, rest, and recreation are all like instruments in the orchestra of life. If one plays too loudly for too long, it drowns out the others, creating noise instead of music. A life out of balance can feel chaotic even if it looks successful from the outside, because deep down there is a sense that something important is being ignored. One of the reasons balance is so difficult to achieve is that the world often glorifies extremes. We celebrate the person who works tirelessly, the athlete who trains beyond limits, the entrepreneur who sacrifices everything for their vision. While dedication is admirable, the price of ignoring other parts of life for too long is rarely worth the applause. Health declines, relationships weaken, and the joy of achievement fades when it comes at the expense of overall well-being. Balance does not mean avoiding ambition. It means pursuing it in a way that allows other parts of life to flourish alongside it. Harmony also involves knowing when to push forward and when to step back. Just as a piece of music has moments of intensity and moments of rest, life requires seasons of effort and seasons of recovery. Many burn out not because they work hard, but because they never pause to recharge. Without balance, the mind grows weary, creativity fades, and the ability to enjoy the fruits of effort diminishes. True balance honors both progress and rest, understanding that one fuels the other. In relationships, balance means giving and receiving in healthy measure. If you are always giving without replenishing yourself, resentment and exhaustion can take root. If you are always taking without giving, connections weaken and trust erodes. The same applies to time. Spending all of it on others leaves no space for self-care, while spending all of it on yourself isolates you from meaningful connection. Balanced relationships thrive because both sides are nurtured. Balance is also a mental and emotional state. It is the ability to hold different emotions without being consumed by them, to think clearly even under stress, and to make decisions from a place of stability rather than reactivity. Emotional balance allows you to face challenges without being thrown into extremes, and to enjoy success without becoming complacent or arrogant. This steadiness is cultivated by self-awareness, mindfulness, and the willingness to adjust perspective when needed. Physical health is another crucial part of life's harmony. Neglecting the body for the sake of work, wealth, or other pursuits may not show consequences immediately, but over time the imbalance becomes undeniable. Energy levels drop, illnesses appear, and the ability to engage fully in life diminishes. Prioritizing exercise, nutrition, and rest is not a distraction from success. It is what enables sustained success. Financial balance plays its role as well. Living in constant excess or constant deprivation both create stress and instability. A balanced financial life is one where money is managed wisely, enough to meet needs, support goals, and enjoy life without letting the pursuit of more overshadow everything else. Just as music needs both sound and silence, a balanced financial life includes both earning and thoughtful spending, saving and giving. One of the most powerful effects of balance is the clarity it brings. When life is in harmony, decisions are easier because they are made from a place of alignment rather than desperation. You are less likely to chase things that do not truly matter because you are already grounded in what is important. This frees you from the constant pull of comparison and competition, allowing you to move at a pace that suits your own rhythm. Achieving balance does not mean life will never have moments of chaos or difficulty. Even the most beautiful music has tension and dissonance before it resolves. The key is to return to balance after these moments, to realign and restore harmony. This might mean reassessing priorities, letting go of something that no longer serves you, or making space for something you have neglected. It is a continual process, not a one-time achievement. Pythagoras' metaphor of life as music reminds us that beauty is found not in perfection, but in the way different parts work together to create something meaningful. In music, a single note held too long can disrupt the whole piece, But the right combination of notes, rhythms, and pauses creates something timeless. In the same way, balance in life does not come from making every area equal, but from ensuring each has its place and is given the attention it needs in the right season. When this happens, life moves with a rhythm that feels both peaceful and purposeful, and every achievement, challenge, and relationship plays its part in the greater composition.